Recording will start soon. I'm going to give it like 30 seconds because sometimes recordings are weird for the first 30 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Hello, and thank you all for being here for my presentation on DARVO, which you will learn more about in a second. But I want to ask you a question before we jump into it, which is, has anyone ever been in an argument where they felt like they were the one who was harmed, but then leaving the argument, you felt like somehow you were the bad guy now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And we're going to learn about the communication tactic that will make you feel that way. And it is a tactic that is used by narcissists and abusers, and it can have different impacts across different spaces. But first, let me show you guys this PSA. Okay, share screen. Okay. Can you guys see the screen I'm sharing?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, here we go.
That's not what happened. You're imagining. I would never do something like that. You're way too sensitive. You're paranoid. You must be crazy. How could you lie about something like that? You're drunk and a liar. I should have known. I heard tell that you like to make things up. You're trying to ruin my life. You always make me out to be the bad guy. I never should have gotten involved with you in the first place. Is it my fault? It's not. DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse offender. It is a narcissistic manipulation tactic that abusers use to avoid accountability and destroy the victim's credibility, both to themselves and others. Abusers often combine the steps of DARVO with emotional blackmail to silence victims completely. It is commonly used in cases of domestic violence, sexual assault, and emotional abuse. If you've been on the receiving end of DARVO, you may experience self-doubt, guilt, communication apprehension, confusion, anxiety, depression, and in severe cases, even PTSD. To learn more about DARVO and how it can be used by abusers in domestic and professional settings, go to IHaveTheRightTo.org.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's the PSA. And now I'm going to, well, first, do you guys have any questions before I go into more depth and explain more about DARVO and the statistics behind it?
I think I'm good.
Okay, slay.
Yeah, I don't have any questions either.
Okay. Okay, let me share my screen again. I'm going to show you guys a presentation now. Yes, there we go. Okay. How to spot and deal with DARVO. So, as we discussed previously in the PSA, DARVO is an acronym that stands for Deny, Attack, Reverse Victim, and Offender. It's used as a manipulation tactic by narcissists and abusers during conflict to deflect blame and avoid accountability. And it's also used specifically to ruin the victim's credibility and make it seem like they are the abuser and not the abused, both to themselves and to outside observers. And these are some examples of using DARVO. They will deny, claim that an event didn't happen or that they remember it differently, say that a victim is too sensitive or blowing things out of proportion. They'll attack, they'll call the victim a liar, say they're mentally ill. They'll claim that they used drugs or alcohol, or that they consented to whatever happened if it was sexual in nature, or they'll even go as far as to say that this person has a history of making false accusations. And then reverse victim offender, they'll say the victim is out to get them or trying to make them look bad or ruin their life. They'll say that they're making things up in an attempt to get custody of their children if it's during a divorce, or trying to get money out of them, or that they're jealous of them, or that they're angry that they rejected them. Just anything to be like, no, I'm not the one at fault. The other person is at fault, and this is why they're doing it. Like coming up with a reasoning that other people might find believable. When do abusers use DARVO? Like I said before, it's usually during conflict after they've been confronted about something that they said or did to the victim. It can be done privately, and I think most people would remember this or think of it as gaslighting, like when you are talking to someone and they completely deny it, or say that it happened differently. But it also is very common in court settings or in workplace settings. And in those cases, there's often observers, whether that's friends, family, police, court officials, etc. And we'll get into some real life examples in a second, but how does it affect the victim and the observers on the short and long term? Victims often will start to doubt themselves and will have confusion about their memory of the events, start doubting their memory. They will be in psychological distress. They will have a less sense of trust for themselves and others, and they're less likely to communicate. And they can even end up with depression, anxiety, or in extreme cases, PTSD. Observers, on the other hand, are much more likely to believe the abuser when the abuser is using DARVO, and they will view the victim as less trustworthy. That is, unless they already are aware of what DARVO is and are able to recognize it. And we're going to talk about some statistics on that in a slide or two. Some real life examples that you might remember are the, I personally had some experiences with a narcissistic parent, and that's why this issue is so important to me, because I often would go to my narcissistic parent and be like, hey, you did this thing that I found really painful and it really hurt my feelings and it's affecting me because of XYZ. And then they would be like, well, no, it's actually because you're misbehaving or you're an ungrateful child or that never happened, da, 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 da. And that created a lot of self-doubt and insecurities in my life that I hope I can prevent other people experiencing. And some real life cases that will be more familiar to you guys are the Heard versus Depp case, the way that Johnny Depp completely ruined Amber Heard's reputation and basically made it out to be that she had been the abuser, even though there was literally photographic evidence of her being bruised up and like having all of these experiences and text messages from him that were very violent. Because of the campaign that he ran with his PR team, he was able to convince everyone that no, it was actually a mutual abuse situation and she was also committing violence. But many experts will explain that there is no such thing as mutual abuse, and that even if she did ever attack him physically, it was most likely in self-defense. But because he was so successful in his use of DARVO, of denying things happen the way she said they do, attacking her character, and then painting himself out to actually be the real victim of the situation, he was able to convince not only that courtroom, but tons of other people and the public at large. And the same can be said for the Diddy case and how they painted out Sierra to be this, like, as if she was a willing participant in the things that he made her do, instead of recognizing that it was an imbalance of power and that she was being coerced into it. Then these are some terms from our course that can be related back to the use of DARVO. So obviously there's narcissism. DARVO is often used by narcissists, whether they are aware that they are using it or not. And narcissism is a personality trait or disorder marked by an inflated sense of self-importance, a deep need for admiration, a significant lack of empathy for others, and troubled interpersonal relationships. And I'm hoping that with people watching this PSA and by identifying that narcissism and DARVO are connected, people will be able to know either, oh, I know that person's a narcissist, so that means that this is most likely DARVO, or if they've experienced DARVO, maybe then they can be like, oh, this person might be a narcissist. Though I will say DARVO is not exclusively used by narcissists, but it is very commonly used by narcissists because they cannot they often either cannot or choose not to recognize when they are at fault, and so will automatically try to deflect. And then emotional blackmail involves using threats, guilt, or manipulation to pressure someone into doing something that they don't want to do. And the way that this relates to DARVO is a lot of times, like we said, they will attack the victim's character or paint them out to be someone that they're not to outsiders. And that can often create feelings of guilt and confusion in the victim, and they will be more likely to acquiesce to things that the abuser is getting them to do, whether that's dropping a court case or taking back their accusation or not telling their friends about it, whatever that may be. And then finally, there is communication apprehension, which is basically communication anxiety or fear that they will have a bad experience while communicating. It can be during public speaking or interpersonal interactions. And it's a common symptom of people who are on the receiving end of DARVO because they start associating vocalizing their opinions and experiences with being attacked, being accused of things. And so they will instead just avoid discussing it. And this is actually the reason why a lot of sexual assault victims don't come forward, because the one time they did, the one time they tried, they often are met with DARVO, denial, attack of their personality, and then they end up getting painted out to be the aggressor. Here are some statistics on why it is important to be aware of DARVO. There were a lot of statistics from this particular study that were pulled, but they basically did a study where two groups of people were both shown a victim and perpetrator situation. One group is educated on DARVO and the other group is not educated on DARVO. The group that was educated on DARVO was more quickly able to recognize that the perpetrator was being manipulative by attacking the victim and saying it was actually their fault. Whereas people who had no idea what DARVO was were more likely to be persuaded by the perpetrator and accept that their version of events, which is that the victim is actually the perpetrator. And so this points out how important information is in this particular case. It's important in most cases, but this is a specific instance where just being aware of what DARVO is and like understanding how to recognize it can help prevent you from falling for the tactics of a perpetrator, whether you yourself are the victim or just an audience member / witness. And then we include a call to action at the end of the PSA that is for a domestic violence and sexual assault helpline to encourage people who think that they might have experienced DARVO to reach out and receive, whether that's emotional or legal counsel, and connect with other victims and just come to a better understanding of what it is that they have experienced. And then on my last slide, this is my works cited page. I don't think I need to read you guys all of that, but it's basically a few. One of them was a main like research study that compiled like tons of different studies about DARVO, like all in one place, which was really useful. And then the others are about either personal experiences, the Johnny Depp Heard case or the Diddy case, or about victims and their experiences. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to my PSA and my presentation on DARVO. I hope that it was informative and somewhat enjoyable. And I'm going to, well, do you guys have any questions, comments before I end the recording?
No questions, but it's I can tell how much research you put into this. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't even know about. So that was really cool.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a good presentation. Good job, Izzy.
Yeah, I am now like scanning my brain for all these instances, and I'm like, whoa, that's good info. Thank you.
You're welcome. And maybe if you have a manipulative person in your life, now you can stop them and say, hey, that's DARVO and I'm not falling for it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I'll say that exactly. I'll quote you
Mhm.
too.
Yeah. Say, I know a
Yeah.
girl, Izzy Airsos, and she told me. I'll hit her up for the citations right now. Okay, thanks so
Yeah.
much, you guys. I'm gonna end the recording.